The order of the worksheets that we see at the bottom of the screen here is something you have complete control over. I'm rethinking this, and I think South should be to the left of Midwest. We can move a worksheet simply by clicking and dragging, as I'm doing here, moving that sheet leftward or rightward as needed. And there could be times, too, when we want to make a copy of a sheet. What I'd like to be able to do, and notice as I click on the East sheet, the South sheet, the Midwest, and the West, they all have the exact same layout. I'd like to set up a summary sheet here. We won't really set up those formulas in this movie, but I do want to demonstrate the idea that rather than retyping and putting in headings on a new sheet, I'm simply going to copy this sheet. Now, instead of a simple drag, left or right, hold down the Control key. You see that tiny little plus inside the Sheet tab. I'm dragging this to the right. Let go of the mouse first. There's West. There's West 2. I'll change its name. Double click. I'll just call it Summary. Eventually, I'll rework those formulas, and of course, I change the name in the upper left corner too. So we can easily copy a sheet. There could be times too, particularly when sheets have an identical layout, where we might want to make the same change to all of them. Maybe to accentuate the idea that this data here is the data being collected, I might want a new row above row 6, but I don't want to have to do that for each of these sheets here. So let's select all the sheets. Now, if I wanted to make a change on just 2 of the sheets, I could click one and then with the Control key, click another sheet. But rather than doing that for all 4 of these to the left here, I've already clicked Summary. Now I'm holding down the Shift key and I'll click East. Now I would like to have a new row above row 6. Notice that when I did the selection here, the display looks different. And at the top of the screen, the name of this workbook, multiple sheets, is followed by the word Group. Anytime you see the word Group, it means at least 2 of the sheets are being grouped. And you got to keep your eye on it. Remember that, because if you don't, you might be making a change that you think is happening on one worksheet, and then it would be happening on multiple sheets. So I'm going to right-click row 6 and Insert, and there's a new row there. Now, at the moment, we're looking at Summary. I'm going to click on the West sheet. Watch the display. There's that empty row. Midwest, South, East. We put a new row in everywhere. Now, if I type a number, if somehow I forget that these are grouped, if I put in a number here or change this number, I'll just put in the number 1000 here. If I'm not thinking properly, that's happened on the other sheets as well. They all say 1000 now. I don't want to do that. I'll press Control Z. And the change has been unmade, you might say. So how do we ungroup? We can group on a sheet that's not part of the grouping. So I could click on the Performance Scores California or New York. That's an easy way. Or simply right-click the current sheet and ungroup. So as you get involved with more sophisticated workbooks where maybe you've got multiple sheets with the same layout and you're writing formulas, the whole idea of grouping data and writing formulas becomes a lot simpler and easier because of these techniques that allow us to select different worksheets at the same time. And earlier we saw those rather straightforward commands for moving a worksheet left to right or making a copy of it using the Control key. Whenever you want to open a file in Excel or create a new one or save it, you're likely to go to the File tab in the ribbon. Microsoft has referred to this as the backstage view. So we see these familiar choices up and down the left side here. Now, imagine in this particular workbook here, in our '09 multiple worksheets workbook here, I've decided that I really don't want these 2 worksheets here to be in this workbook. I want them to be in another workbook. There are a couple different approaches to this. One is, let's create a brand new workbook. And we can certainly go to the File tab and press New, but there is a keystroke shortcut too that's handy. It's Control N. Think of N, that's the letter N for new. Control N, and we'll have a new workbook. And depending upon how long you've been working with Excel during the current session, it's likely to be named Book 1, Book 2. In my case right now, it's being called Book 4. So this is a completely new workbook. And if I have any doubt about what's going on, I'll go to the View tab right now. And off to the right, I don't necessarily want to switch windows yet, but by clicking this button, I'm seeing that I have other workbooks open. I have another one open that I forgot about. But this is Book 4, the new one, and the previous one that I was looking at, and I can certainly switch to that one now. But it's possible I want this worksheet to be in that workbook. So what can we do here? A couple of different approaches. One is I can right-click this current sheet tab and move or copy. And in this dialog box, I could move it before other sheets, but it certainly would be easier to drag it left or right. But notice up here, got a drop arrow here. We could create a brand new workbook, a new book. Now, I just created one called Book 4, and that's where I want this workbook to go to. But keep an eye on the box down below. Do we want to make a copy? I don't in this case. If I did, I'd check that box. A copy of this worksheet would be made, and we could put it in that other workbook that I just opened, the new one, Book 4. So I'll choose, in this case, Book 4, and I actually want to move it so it will disappear from here and end up in Book 4. And as I click OK, watch the top of the screen, we're now looking at Book 4, and here's that worksheet. If I go over to Switch Windows, remember this is on the View tab, I'll see the other workbook that we were using, multiple worksheets, there it is. It doesn't have that Performance Scores California sheet in it. Now, I actually could have done the New York move at the same time, but I'll do this again. Right-click, move or copy. And here too, I want this to go into, not the current workbook anywhere, but into Book 4, and I can put it after California or before it. Right now that says before sheet. So if California here is highlighted, I'll simply click OK. And there it is. It's to the left of the California sheet in this other new workbook. And at some point I will want to save this. And of course we'll go to the File tab now. And it's always better to use Save As if you're saving a file for the first time. But if it is the first time you're saving a file, makes no difference which you use. We end up in the same location. And if you've worked with other software, you know what to do here. You know where you want to save it. I'm going to click Browse. Possibly I'll just choose to put this on the desktop. Your screen might look a little different here, but I'm simply going to choose Desktop and probably give it a different name. So I'll just call it Performance Scores, or PERF Scores, to make it a little bit shorter for the moment. And simply click Save. So that's been saved. At different times you want to close the workbook. Let's say I've finished working with this. Many of you know that Control-O is the shortcut for open, or many of us would go to the File command and choose Open for opening a file. Here's also where we see Close. File Close right here. This too has a keystroke shortcut, but you probably would not have guessed it. It's Control-W. So we've seen different uses of opening and closing a file, creating a new file, and copying worksheets from one location to another in different workbooks.